What is up, Optimus Fantasy family? It is Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. We are heading towards week 2 of NFL action after, I don't know, Mike, what would you classify week 1 as? It was something. There were some great performances. There were some Deshaun Watson performances. It was an interesting week 1.
There was some horrible, crazy stuff too. Lots of guys didn't perform. Lots of guys did. Typical week 1, I guess, in a way, right? Like sometimes people come out of the woodwork for 1 week. Sometimes they're mainstays the rest of the way. We'll get to know. We'll know more in 2 weeks, right? 2 more weeks of play. Things will level off a little bit more.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like there are certain things that we saw where it's like Travis Kelce had a horrible week. He finished outside of the top. Travis Kelce was tight end 14. Trey McBride was tight end 18. Sam Laporta was tight end 8. But then we had Foster Moreau tight end 2, Jawan Johnson tight end 3, Kyle Pitts tight end 4, and Chigakonkwo tight end 5. So everything was out the window at tight end. Wide receiver was a little nuts too. Jaden Reed, Mike, finishing as the overall wide receiver 1. Somebody I begged people to go grab, begged people to get on their roster. Someone I said, start him this week in our start sit shows. And Jameson Williams had a big week too, Mike.
Jameson Williams had a big week. I thought he would, by the way. I actually I wrote about him in a late slate article. He's not suspended. He's not coming off an injury. He's had a full off season for the first time ever in his career. It just makes a big difference. And when they traded away or let sign elsewhere, whatever they did with the other wide receivers like Josh Reynolds, it just paved the way to open up playing time for him more. So I'm not going to say I expected him to play that well week 1, but I expected his role in the offense to grow this year. And it has.
Well,
so
I think what we saw from JMO was it. Yeah, they should. And what we saw was JMO actually put it all together in one game, which we haven't seen him do. It took him a couple years. I'm okay with that. Now, some other interesting receiver notes here. Brian Thomas Jr. leading all rookie wide receivers with 10.7 fantasy points. Ladd McConkey not far behind him with 9.9 fantasy points, wide receiver 20. It shocked me and it didn't. I knew he was going to be more involved,
but it shocked me.
Yeah, I am too. And then here's the one that really got me. Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike. We were all so excited to see this kid's debut. 3 targets, 1 catch, 4 yards. Do you think maybe he's just going to be getting worked in here a little bit slower, or is this more of just a symptom of the game and the situation?
Well, I mean, I try not to discourage people from film watching, but I don't know if he was where he was supposed to be every play. I have no idea. I do know he played 90% of the snaps, right? So they didn't take him off the field very much. So I would consider this growing pains of a rookie with a new quarterback and what's clearly a new system for him. Greg Dortch, I think, was second in targets after McBride. And, he's going to come around, Harrison. It might take time. It does sometimes for a rookie wide receiver. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would say be patient. I would also say I never would have burned a first or a second round draft pick on a rookie wide receiver. I know that's what his ADP was. I didn't do it. But he's good and he's going to get more looks. The touches are going to come. You're just going to have to be patient. That's just how it is.
Well, I think something, Mike, that both of us harped on all week, because there's been so much excitement about this rookie class, more specifically quarterbacks and wide receivers, more so than the running backs and the tight ends. But be patient with these guys, right? This was their first NFL action. Something I talked about a lot last week was, guys, Caleb Williams isn't going to be a top 12 quarterback. I don't even know if he's going to be a QB2 this week. He was QB 31. But again, first game in the NFL playing real NFL defenses. And no matter how bad we think those defenses are in NFL terms, it's still a better defense than they faced in college. You're not going to have the best. It's just not the same. So
everybody's bigger, stronger, faster. Everybody is.
Yep. 100%. That's the name of the game. Name of the game. All right, guys. Well, we got a question here in the chat. First, I want to shout out Jamie Parag. Jamie, it's always a pleasure to see you. Then we have got Sal Sarna in the chat. He's got a question for us, Mike. So let's get to this here real quick. Jameson Williams and Jordan Mason for Debo in half PPR. Sending Jamo and Mason. Should I pull the trigger? Mike, I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
If Christian McCaffrey's dinged up now, he's probably going to be dinged up for a portion of the season. So I want to keep Mason. And Jameson Williams is just coming into his own here. You're giving up a lot where I usually want the single guy. And I love Debo, by the way. I think he's going to have a great season. But I think this is too much right now.
Well, and I agree. And kind of where I'm at with it is that Debo is so boomer bust, right? He'll have massive weeks, but then he'll have a week where he has like 2 points. He doesn't get used much in the offense. This is Jordan Mason's first week as a starter. We saw him get a ton of volume. I think he gets worked into the passing game just a little bit more. Debo loses some of that work. Brandon Ayuk just showed up to camp. He was on a really limited schedule this week as well. That's going to eat into Debo's workload. And not say he can't be great, but I wouldn't make this move. You want to keep Jamo. You want to keep Jordan Mason. These are guys, and especially Jordan Mason, until CMC is healthy, this guy could be the RB1 or challenging the RB1 a lot of weeks. He is very good in a system built for running backs.
They're not going to rush CMC back as well. Why should they? When Mason performs so well, the Jets defense is good, by the way. That was a great performance by him.
Yes.
And he had 347 touches last year. CMC did. Typically, when running backs not named Derrick Henry have that many touches, especially when it's multiple years in a row with over 300, they start to decline. They're going to be dinged up. We start last year with Josh Jacobs. Nick Chubb ended up getting hurt after having massive workloads the season before. I don't think San Francisco's in a rush to bring CMC back if they can make it work, because they'll want him healthy for the playoffs, because last year that's when he started to slide. He started being dinged up and not playing as well. So
and you've got to remember, for us, we want these guys back right away. But from a real football NFL standpoint, if you want to win down the line, this is a team that can keep winning with Jordan Mason. Why risk CMC when you can just let him rest up, let him get healthy, right? Yep. All right. Well, before we get into our waiver wire picks, just want to remind you guys, tomorrow night, check out the Nate and Hearns show live on Optimus Fantasy. We'll be covering everything from week 1. We'll be getting into some fun stuff for week 2. And then Thursday, join myself and Casey Kasem live at 4 p.m. Eastern for the Optimus Fantasy Football Show. It's going to be a blast. It's our first week as my official full-time co-host, Mike. So I'm stoked to have her. It's going to be a great time. Yeah, man, I'm excited. All right, let's get into this here. We're going to start with the quarterbacks. Mike, this was an interesting week for quarterback play. Josh Allen finishing first overall, but Baker Mayfield, 29.7 points. We harped on him all last week. If you listened to us, you picked him up. Go get him. Guys, he is still, let's see here. He is sitting at, I believe, he is 34.1% rostered on ESPN. I know from watching CBS Sports HQ last night on repeat while writing my article for Optimus Fantasy that he is roughly 60% rostered on Yahoo. So he's going to be a little bit less available there. But if he's in your leagues, this is a QB1, Mike. Rest of season to me.
We talked about him for weeks, it feels like now, every single week, how we couldn't believe he wasn't getting drafted because he was a QB10 last year. 289 yards, 4 touchdowns. He won me a lot of money in DFS this week. I don't know how you can't add him. Adam, I think you can feel good about playing him this week as well. You're going to see production there. Evans is not done, and Godwin, they are not done at wide receiver. They both looked really, really good as well. And then you have White catching a lot of balls out of the backfield, which just seems to really work well with that offense. So Baker Mayfield, he's probably a top 12 guy for the season when it's all said and done again.
Yep. Yeah, I would have a hard time seeing him not be. with this offense, especially with the divisional competition. Look at the teams that he's playing more often than not, right? Carolina twice, New Orleans twice. Now, we both had him on our list. The guy we didn't both have on our list, Derek Carr in New Orleans, 4.5% rostered right now on ESPN. Mike, he was pretty good last week. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a world beater, but he had a nice week against a really bad Carolina defense. QB 6, 21.3 fantasy points.
The thing with Derek Carr is he might not get you a ton of yards, and he didn't, right? Nope. But he got 3 touchdowns. So when he has it cooking there, and it looks like this offense is playing to Derek Carr's strengths, by the way. A little bomb here and there to Rashid Shaheed, which was nice. There was one in the game. A lot of dinking and dunking. Sorry, Chris Olave fans. But the tight ends all got used to some extent, 3 of them. The running backs got used in the passing game and the run game. It'll be a little bit tougher this week. But, yeah, on ESPN, this guy's only 4.5% rostered and only 10% on Yahoo. He's available everywhere. That's why I threw him in here. So if you're hurting and you need a quarterback, say you had Love and you're not going to have him for a few weeks. Carr's somebody who's available. He should at least be able to hold down the fort for you during that time. I'm always a little higher on Derek Carr than other people because I'm a late QB guy typically in drafts, and I end up plugging and playing some guys like him all the time. So I expect, steady play, not super high play, but steady play.
Well, and that's the thing with with Derek Carr. Used to be Baker Mayfield, but now with Derek Carr, you get a consistent, mid-range QB2. So, like, if you're in a super flex league, you're in a 2 QB league, this should be a no-brainer. Go get Derek Carr. 1 QB leagues, if you're hurting for a quarterback here, you missed out. You got Jordan Love, and you're kind of screwed because you don't want to go with Malik Willis, people. Leave him on the waiver wire.
But isn't it running up?
Just to be clear. Not enough for me, man. Not enough for me. I wish. We'll see what you know what? Anything's possible. I did like Malik Willis coming into the league, but he's so raw. And I just don't think he's going to be fantasy viable while Love's out.
Neither do I.
But Derek Carr will be. QB 16 last year, QB 17, QB 13, QB 14, QB 17, QB 20, QB 19, QB 12, QB 14, and QB 20. Those are his career finishes in fantasy. You know what you're getting from Derek Carr. And as Mr. Bob Lung loves to write about, consistency is key in fantasy football. And he's a guy who's you know what you're getting out of him every week.
Yep. That's why I had him there. He can help you hold down that fort at the very least.
Yeah, and now the next one, also on your list here, Matthew Stafford. I'm surprised to see that he's only 35% rostered. Probably a symptom of age, but he had a good week. And this offense, even without Puka Nacua, is pretty electric. And they're going to put up a lot of fantasy points.
I like the offense. I think they'll put up fantasy points. I was surprised in drafts when he wasn't being drafted. I at the Scott Fishbowl draft, by the way, I sat at a table with some very, very smart, very, very good fantasy football people. And
it's true.
One of them, she said during the draft, I drafted Jared Goff at one point. God damn you. It's a good thing I'm getting my other guy next. And her other guy was Stafford. And this is somebody who's made it to the finals. She's really good. People like that know what they're talking about when they're going into these things. Matthew Stafford didn't get drafted in a lot of redraft places, which was another surprise for me, kind of like Baker. Like, I see people drafting backup quarterbacks where I'm like, that guy stinks. You're letting these other guys just sit out there? Okay. Yeah. I actually, Jordan Love got hurt on one of my teams. I added Stafford before the game Sunday night and dropped a bench guy so that I had Stafford because someone else had added Baker Mayfield before I could get him. So, but yeah.
Look, yes, Stafford's 36 years old. Yes, his body is beat to all hell. We all know this. But the system in Los Angeles isn't asking him to do anything that he's not fully physically capable of. He's got Cooper Kupp. He's got Puka Nacua when he comes back. He's got Tyler Johnson. He's got Demarcus Robinson. He's got Blake Corum. He's got Colby Parkinson. He's got Kyron Williams. I just don't see any reason why he shouldn't be on your roster, right? Especially in 2 QB leagues. If he's still on the waiver wire, you need to go get him. And let the people who have this weird bias against going and rostering him, let them have it. Let him have it. And then just pay less.
Would you rather have the cool guy, or would you rather get top 20 fantasy performances week in and week out?
I think the cool guy is the one who wins the fantasy championship, personally.
Well, me too. My favorite player is the guy who gets me the most points. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to throw out my last one, and this isn't going to take me long. I don't have any stats to really quote because the guy hasn't been a starter in the NFL since 2019, but it's plain and simple. If you have an empty spot on the back end of your bench, you've got a quarterback that's going on our IR, and you've got a replacement for him, Jordan Love. You've already got that replacement in place. Go get Jameis Winston, especially after the news dropped about Deshaun Watson yesterday and the new allegations. Mike, I don't think he can weather this now. At this point, what's coming out is so horribly bad and awful. And then that week 1 performance, which there was a handful of stats in which it was one of the 5 worst quarterback performances in the history of the NFL.
He was bad, very bad.
Bad. Yes. And this isn't bad that he's coming back from. I watched every snap and every throw on all 22 yesterday of Deshaun Watson. I did Bo Nix too. That was real painful. But I watched Deshaun Watson, and it's simple. He doesn't look like he gives a shit, right? No. He doesn't care. He got guaranteed money. What does he have to prove? 2, the skill set simply isn't there. Either he's not doing the conditioning work he needs to be doing, or he's just that beat up. It's not there, and it's not coming back.
I yearn for Jameis Winston to come back and make my fantasy season fun.
Right.
At the very least, this guy makes it so much fun when you roster him, and people say, well, he throws interceptions. Yeah, but he throws 35 touchdowns. Like, you can live with the bad in fantasy. Yes, you can live with him being a bad real-life quarterback because he just slings it.
And he can run too, man.
Yeah.
He can get out of the pocket. I mean, maybe not so much anymore. He's 30 years old. But I still think he can do it. Now we've got a question here.
An actual bad quarterback is insane. We know he's not a good real-life quarterback, but we love him.
No, but for fantasy, man, talk about fun, right? Okay, Jonathan Jones in the chat here. I already know my answer to this one, but he's saying, should I trade Mike Evans for Raheem Mostert, Devontae Smith, Mark Andrews, and Christian Kirk? If that's the haul you're getting back from Mike Evans, 1, I'm going to assume that you have a pretty good wide receiver room already anyway. And 2, yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
do that. That's a haul.
I love Mike Evans, but that's a haul.
Yeah, take that. Jonathan, take that. You're going to be very happy with yourself.
Jonathan, tell me the name of the person who made you that trade. We're going to start inviting that person to other fantasy leagues so we can make trades like
that. Or if you have a spot in your league, just let us know. We'd be happy to hop in. Real quick, our resident Cleveland Browns fan here, Jamie Prog, saying Watson looked like ass. There's just no coming back from how bad his performance was, Mike. And I can't. Yeah. I think it's over for Deshaun Watson. No, they just have to find a way to get rid of. Yeah. Now, guys, before we get on to running backs, I just want to remind you, DFS Live with me and Mike on Friday midday. We're going to help you get those DraftKings lineups all set and ready to go so you can win some money this weekend. Maybe you can compete with some of the big boys. If you just maybe won like a $10,000 scratch ticket, go drop 150 lineups, win that $1 million. Shoot for the stars. Yeah, and we got this chat here, 4 for 1. Holy moly, that's unheard of. Sal, I would say go find one of the sites that has some trade finders on it that'll go through some of the platforms and find different trades. You're going to be amazed at some of the weird stuff people do in fantasy. It's astounding. But, who are we to judge? But we are judging these running backs, Mike. We have to for the people. The first one I want to bring up, and you actually put him on the list. I knew you were going to. Somebody had to. Justice Hill in Baltimore. We're going on 3 years of the fantasy community wanting him to be a thing. I think he found his niche with Derrick Henry, who's not a pass catching back. Justice Hill saw 8 targets on Thursday. My God, that was so long ago. But yes.
And 6 catches for 52 yards. He was on 54% of the snaps. He was out there as well. So, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. I like what they did there. It gives them a chance to rest Henry in his old age. I'm sorry, Derek, that
Exactly.
you're old. You are old for not for the planet, but for the NFL. They didn't lose anything, right? He pass blocked great too, by the way. He had some amazing pass blocking going on in that game. I like him as an ad. 3% on ESPN, 4% rostered on Yahoo. I mean, the guy's available, so that's an even
Right.
better reason. That's part of why he was there for me. Like, I like people that are available everywhere, and he's fits
Right.
that.
Well, and it's not like this came out of nowhere. The last
Nope.
2 games last season, he had 5 targets in week 17, got a receiving touchdown, had 64 yards, then was targeted 10 times in week 18 against Pittsburgh. So he's proven he can do it. It's just finally an offensive situation where it's opened up for him to do it. Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are gone, so we'll see him get some work. Now, a guy I was kind of surprised to see the amount of passing work he got. That's why he is on this list. Alexander Mattison, now in Las Vegas. Look, I didn't think I'd want to talk about this guy, Mike, but he actually looked really good. Here's what really struck me is that Zamir White ain't it, man. He was all right. He was serviceable.
He's not a pass catching back at all.
He's not a pass catching back at all. Conversely, Madison had 4 catches on 6 targets, 43 yards and a touchdown, 10.7 yards per catch. Then he ran the ball 5 times for 19 yards. Not very impressive. 60% of the snaps, though, for Madison.
He led the backfield in running back snaps, which was the surprise for me. I did not draft a lot of White in redraft, and I'm happy with that now. Madison's an ad. I think he's almost a must add as well, right? Like, I think you want to go out there and get him. He's only 10% rostered on ESPN, only 5% rostered on Yahoo this morning, by the way, as well.
Yeah, I mean, 16 fantasy points out of any running back you're going to be happy with. If you're getting a guy like Justice Hill on the waiver wire, yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that, Mike. I mean, you're not going to find a lot of running backs with that production off of the waiver wire. Another guy I really love this week that you threw in here, Zach Charbonnet, 49% on ESPN, little bit high, but that's only half of managers. So there's a 50% chance he's available in your league. It looks like he's going to get a lot of work in this new Seattle offense, Mike.
Well, depending on that injury to Walker, right, as well, we'll know more probably by the end of today. I didn't know at the time of us drafting who we wanted to play, and I'm sorry, I actually took a nap before the show, so I didn't look it up. But if Kenny Walker's abdomen's bothering him, and that's why he left the game, and he can't play, Zach Charbonnet becomes a great play. You're potentially looking at running back 1 numbers for the week or any week that Walker's out, and he played really well. I'd be happy adding him if I knew Kenny Walker was out.
Yeah, and I think we probably won't know until later in the week. I told reporters he was fine. They're assuming that he's probably going to play on Sunday, but we'll see. Either way, is a handcuff for Ken Walker, who is clearly having some health issues. 8 carries, but then he was targeted 3 times for 29 yards. He had that touchdown in the air. So Charbonnet's a guy I wouldn't mind flexing most weeks, especially depending on matchup. They've got New England next week, then Miami, at Detroit, then the Giants. That's not a bad stretch of games to kind of get him out there. Those are teams that maybe don't cover the running backs quite as well, especially if he's involved in the passing game.
I was just going to say the first one's the worst one out of that stretch of game. The Pats are probably the toughest to be out of that group.
Yeah. Hey, congrats to your Pats, by the way, Mike. Beating up on the Bengals, looking good.
We're shocked.
I'm not. I didn't understand why Ramondre Stevenson was falling so far in drafts this draft season. It didn't make sense to me, and I was scooping him at value. He's my most rostered running back in Dynasty. So
he's up there for me in redraft. I have him everywhere as my 3rd or 4th running back. I'm usually talking about him in the offseason a lot about how he's a running back 2. He returns a running back 2 numbers every time he's healthy. People still wanted to try to tell me it was a fluke what he did this week, and I said, no, this is his floor.
No.
Oh, it's going to be his average. It's probably his floor. Like, he might have a bad game here and there. That's really the floor, I know, but like, you can expect what he did this week is essentially every week. It's
Well, the offense dictates that that's what his usage is going to be. And I don't understand. You're looking at Jacoby Brissett being your starting quarterback, and you don't think that they're going to run the hell out of Ramondre Stevenson, who's already shown that he can handle that kind of workload and stay healthy. So, yeah, of course, Jared Mayo is going to lean on him. If they want to win this season, Ramondre is going to be a massive part of that. Unfortunately, he is not somebody you can find on the waiver wire.
We're hoping for mediocrity there, and I think we're going to get it. And I don't mean Ramondre, I mean the team. I think we're going to get.
Oh yeah, no, I know
500 type of season.
Yeah, and you know what? Given the situation, I think that's okay. I don't think anyone really expected anything more from New England. Now, Bucky Irving, the Tampa Bay Bucks rookie. I'm going to be honest, Mike. I didn't think we were going to see a whole lot of him. 20.7% rostered on ESPN. He's emerging as a guy in an offense that is just dynamic enough that you might want to go out and get him.
Well, and he had the big run, which kind of padded his stats, that one big run. 9 carries, 62 yards, 3 targets, 2 receptions, and 14 yards. He was only in on 31% of the snaps. But when it comes to running the football, it looks like Rachaad White is proving to be a better pass catcher, which is fine. He's a very good pass catcher. And if Bucky can break some decent-sized chunks like that weekly, he's going to continue to earn playing time there, and they can support both of these running backs. With
easily.
What they're doing, they can support them.
Yeah, I just want to say this really quickly. Get out of the mindset that the NFL is a one running back league. This is a committee back league now. That's just where we are. The days of the Emmitt Smiths and those types of bell cow backs is Derrick Henry's 1 in 10 million, right? You're not going to find these Derrick Henry guys going forward. It's just not the way these guys are trained. It's not the way they're built. It's not the way that offenses run anymore. So a guy like Bucky Irving paired with Rachaad White, neither one of them are bell cow material. You're going to get enough out of both to where they're both going to be fantasy viable.
Yeah, I like both guys, by the way. I think they both have a lot to the table. Yeah.
Yep. It's just like you can like Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. It is allowed. There's no rule that says you have to pick one or the other, folks. It's okay.
I don't, but I've been making fun of Blake Corum a lot this weekend. So
I mean, I don't really either. It was just the first situation that popped into my head. Now, the last guy we're going to talk about, Tank Bigsby. It kind of looks like he might be making a little bit of a dent there in Jacksonville. First of all, I love the call on him. 12 carries, 73 yards, 6.08 yards per carry. And that was only 32% of the snaps on Sunday.
That's what's amazing.
That's what's amazing. I love it. I think this Jacksonville offense is at some point is going to have to realize that Trevor Lawrence is a pedestrian quarterback, and they're going to have to run the ball a lot. He's not great. He's not football Jesus that we all thought he was going to be.
He's good, but he's not great.
If you redrafted his draft class, he doesn't go first overall, knowing what we know now. No, not even close. But that lends itself to guys like Tank Bigsby, who last season what has to be one or the other? No, it can be both. And I think it is going to be both, and it has to be.
I think they wanted Bigsby to make this jump last year, and he just didn't do it. Because remember in the offseason last year, they were talking about Tank, and they were hoping that the split the workload with Travis Etienne, and it didn't work out. It looks like it might work out this year. I like Bigsby. I think that's a good situation. Again, we're going to start talking about running back by committee, kind of like we talk about passing trees for wide receivers, and 2 branches on the tree is fine. But if you have a 3-headed running back by committee, we don't want any part of it.
No.
Yeah.
That's my propensity for staying away from Miami. Yes, I do, and I would target Bigsby. And I can't imagine. I still think there's probably a lot of recency bias amongst fantasy managers for Bigsby, and we didn't hear a whole lot about him in camp doing anything special. So you might be able to get him for kind of cheap there on the wire. Yeah, exactly. Cheap acquisition. 1-2% of your remaining fab. Hopefully you still have some left after week 1. We're praying for you. I want to pop into the chat here, Mike. We've got a few questions. Robert Mitchell, thank you for tuning in again, Robert. He offered to trade Zach Moss for Zamir White. Your thoughts?
I want to keep Zach Moss.
Same. There's just more upside there.
Well, the usage for Zach against the Patriots was great, and he looked good. In that Bengals offense, he didn't look bad. He outplayed Chase Brown in a big way on Sunday. So I
don't know why people are surprised by that. Chase Brown's fine.
They wanted Zach Moss to be a thing, as a rookie, and he's not. So
that's fine. We got Cat for Life saying gentlemen with some fantastic emojis. Thanks for tuning in. So this is what he's got set for his waiver order. Running back, Hill, Bigsby, Jeff Wilson. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Jeff Wilson, I hope you don't end up with him. Wide receiver, we've got Dortch, Jalen McMillan, Alec Pierce, and Dortch again. If you can get him twice, that is a boom. And then we've got Travis Johnson with the Rams. Then at QB, he's looking at getting Justin Fields. He has Achane. He wants to know if he should handcuff him or make 2 moves. I wouldn't handcuff him necessarily because you don't know who to handcuff him to.
No, I don't
That's
think
the problem. Is it Jeff Wilson? Is it Jalen Wright? I would stay away from getting Fields. As soon as Wilson is ready, he's going to be the starter. We're going to see not enough of Justin Fields for him to be fantasy relevant. Ty Johnson. Now, Mike, I've got him kind of on our waiver list here, so we can go ahead and take him off that. Too. We'll talk about this here. We both had him. Here's my thing with him. This is where I'm concerned. Most of his yardage came on that 163-yard catch.
Yes.
Demarcus Robinson saw more of the volume. I'm concerned that Demarcus Robinson will continue to see the volume, and Tyler Johnson is going to need that boom play to have any sort of relevance with Nakua.
Possible. And on my only dynasty team I already have Robinson. And Demarcus Robinson has produced in this offense. He played more snaps because he was the number 3 guy already. And Tyler Johnson could officially be like the Puka role. I don't know. But Robinson played 92% of the snaps. Tyler Johnson played 65. Johnson got the touch. Did he get a touchdown? He got a touchdown, didn't he?
He got the touchdown. Yeah, that was at 63.
So they each had 7 targets. We could easily be looking at them each having 7 targets. And then in all honesty, I have them kind of equal. If they're going to get roughly the same amount of targets every week, which I think they will, pick your guy, right? Demarcus Robinson's done it before. Tyler Johnson has not with the Rams. He's relatively new here. He appears to be more of a big play threat than Robinson is.
Sure.
He's rostered 0% almost everywhere, right? So he's the one that's free. Really available. He's free. So I'm okay with either, by the way, because I was going to talk about that as well. Like I like Demarcus Robinson just as much.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's an either or situation for me. You can't really go wrong either way. They both have an equal shot of popping off here with Nakua out.
They could easily, each one of them, see 8-9 targets every single week. I don't think they'll see double digits because I think Cup's going to see like 18 targets a week until Nakua is back. Something insane like that. Kind of, yeah.
Probably. And otherwise, I'm going to say this. Go get Hill and Bigsby, and Dortch and Pierce should be your top priorities. I like McMillan in the offense, but Pierce is the deep guy. We saw him snag that crazy long touchdown. And I see him feasting with Anthony Richardson's big arm.
The volume's not going to be there, but the deep ball is what Richardson does, right? So he, right. I mean, that 60-yarder was like a toss for him. It wasn't like he took 4 steps forward or anything to throw that ball. 3 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. 84% of the snaps for Alec Pierce. So he's on the field. He can go get that deep ball. He's free too. 0.5% on ESPN rostered, 3% on Yahoo. He's available everywhere. I mean, it's I actually like him probably more than either one of the Rams a little tiny bit because I think he's going to have some kind of a deep bomb thrown his way every single week. It makes him a nice flex play for your team.
Yep. And that's where I'm at with Pierce. He's going to get 1 to 2 deep balls a game, probably capitalizes on 1. Hopefully it's for a touchdown. The Cat for Life also has got this one. Just traded CJ Stroud and Singletary for Josh Allen and Pittman. Will the veto vultures come out? First things first. Get rid of trade vetoes in your leagues. It's asinine. It allows for more collusion than not having a trade veto. I've had people come to me and say, I need to veto that trade. So pick better leagues. If you don't trust the people you're in a league with, get out of the league.
Most of the time, it's not even that they don't trust them. It's a good trade. It helps both teams. They're angry because they're not involved in the trade, so they want to veto. That is also collusion, folks. They're preventing everybody else from getting any better. Don't
get vetoes out of fantasy football. And if they do veto it, Cat for Life, I'm seriously find a new league. You don't want that shit.
You can make it so there's a commissioner approval, but you need a trustworthy commissioner as well. Trades should, for the most part, go through. I have a commissioner approval on the league I run. You know how many trades I've prevented from going through in since 2008? You're a good guesser. Zero. I have prevented zero from going through. If there was one, I had one really lopsided trade, and the two guys didn't even know each other. So I had to ask them if they were both okay with it. And they said yes. And the guy who was getting the raw end of the deal was the one who initiated the trade. So it's like, all right, guys, I'll push it through.
Right.
No problem.
Yeah. Yep. All right. One more question for Cat for Life here. Thoughts on Jalen McMillan? Mike, I'll start here real quick. 3 targets, 1 catch. There's a 32-yard touchdown. He looked okay. I think he's a rookie, and I think he's a rookie who's going to have a hard time finding a path to any significant volume. Great dynasty stash. In redraft, I don't know. He's not worth the roster spot right now in redraft.
In redraft, I would pass on him as well.
Yep. Now we've got Millie Mills in here saying, what's up, boys? Millie Mills, thank you for tuning in, man. We always appreciate it. Lost love, but just traded JMO and Monty for Tyjae and A. Rich. That's a good trade. Now, I don't love losing Monte and getting Tyjae back, but also I think we're going to see a lot more out of Tyjae than we saw in week 1. Pollard kind of took that game over. Tennessee's offense is real bad. I think they're going to take the ball out of Levis's hands here soon. So you're probably going to see more volume out of Spears as well. Jamie Prog saying Ashton Dolan season. You never know, man. This is the NFL. Things are crazy, right? Got Stevenson on my bench as well, though. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, do it.
A lot less painful.
Yep, a lot less painful. All right, now let's move on here. We still haven't talked about wide receivers. As we talked about a little bit before we got here, the wide receivers this week were interesting. We already talked about DeMarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson. Got that one out of the way. We talked a little bit about Greg Dortch, but let's talk about him first. He's still only 4% rostered on ESPN, which tells me not enough people are watching our show, basically. Look, Dortch is the clear slot receiver. The guy was all over the field on Sunday. If that wasn't enough for you to go out and spend what you have to spend on your fab to get him on your team, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, yes, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to step into more volume, but that shouldn't affect Greg Dortch.
In PPR, he's a must-own, and he's not rostered really anywhere. 5% on Yahoo, 1.6% on ESPN, and 12% on Sleeper. So, 8 targets, 6 receptions. I know he only had 47 yards. He has really sticky hands. He catches almost everything thrown his way. He's the safety blanket here for Kyler Murray. And that was a tough defense the Bills have that they played against. It's only going to get better from here out for Dortch, to be honest. And again, don't expect like 150 yards and 3 TDs. That's not what you're going to get here, but you're going to see like 10 targets, 8 receptions, those type of games weekly. And that's what you should expect. He's got to be rostered. I don't know how he's not rostered everywhere.
Right. Well, it's an almost, you can almost pencil in double-digit PPR points with Dortch every week in this offense. Like,
pretty much.
Yeah. Now, the next one we want to talk about here, because we've talked about Dortch a lot. This is a guy we haven't talked about much. Devon Vale from the Denver Broncos. He's the rookie, undrafted out of Utah. 8 targets. That's 8 insane. Targets, 8 catches. Now, much like Greg Dortch, 39 yards. So the yardage just wasn't simply there.
The quarterback also looked horrible this week, by the way. That'll improve. So,
watching the All-22 film on Bo Nix yesterday, this is what I picked up from him. I mean, it was just confirming what I already knew about Nix from having watched him in college and in the offseason. He's having a hard time reading down the field because there were probably 5, 6, 7 occasions where he dumped the ball either to McLaughlin, Vele, or someone else underneath. There's one where I believe he dumped it to Dulcich underneath, where he had a receiver over the top wide open, but he couldn't get there. He couldn't read that far down the field. I don't really care about Nix in this scenario. What I care about is the fact that the guy that works well within the range right now that Bo Nix can see on the field are guys like Javonte Williams, Greg Dulcich, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Devon Vale. Those are the guys who are in his wheelhouse. All of Vale's targets were 9 yards or less.
I think he got the targets we thought were going to go to Dulcich, is what I was going to say, right?
Yeah,
like
he did.
He seemed to get those targets this week. He's an add and stash. I want to monitor this to see if this becomes a trend type of deal myself.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. It kills all those Sutton rostered wherever he is. This is the type of thing that could kill him. Penix can't get him the ball. I know he looked for him in the red zone, right, which is nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, if this kid's going to see that kind of volume again, PPR, he will become a must-own player.
Yeah, I mean, he stepped into 11.9 PPR points just simply by getting the ball thrown to him. So those are the kind of easy flex plays that you can grab, stash on your bench for a week or two, see if the trend continues. And really, if it does, Christian McCaffrey's hurt again. Oh, well, crap. I've got the running backs to replace him, but now I'm missing a flex. Pop Vele in, pop Dortch in. These are guys who are just, they're going to be points machines if the volume keeps up for them. Now, another guy we just talked about, Alec Pierce. He's a deep ball threat, so we'll move on from that. And we have now covered all receivers. Mike, we did a really great job of that one. Efficiency and time.
We kind of just wandered into it right after running backs without even trying.
Yeah, it's what you do. This is what you get out of good shows, right?
The transition.
This is what you get out of the transition. The transition. Now, Cat for Life's got another question here. He's got Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, Devin Achane, Michael Pittman, Rashee Rice, Trey McBride. His flex is Khalil Shakir. He's got Keon Coleman, Cortland Sutton, Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, Romeo Doubs, and Khalil Herbert. Do I drop both Green Bay guys? I would not drop Marshawn Lloyd if you can hold on to him for right now, but I would get rid of Romeo Doubs. It's going to be 3 to 6 weeks before he's even remotely relevant, and I don't know how relevant he's going to be even when Jordan Love comes back. This is Jaden Reed's offense as far as wide receivers.
And Benson's somebody you can drop as well, by the way, if you don't feel good about him, because they've clearly said that James Conner is the bell cow, and that showed, by the way, as well this past weekend.
And barring an injury, I mean, and Connor, he had a bad rap early in his career, but he's been pretty durable the last few seasons. So now we've got Jamoni has Jake Ferguson. He was offered his Bowers for his, or he was offered Brock Bowers for his Zamir White. Wow, what? Bauer for Zamir White, take that. I don't care who your other tight ends are. Take that. If you're going to get, I'm reading that right?
He gets Bowers, and he trades away Zamir White.
Yeah, that's a smash deal. J Money, do it right now before they realize what they're doing, and then they rescind the trade. Because
next week they'll realize that it hurt them.
Yes. Now Nick is saying
they will.
Yeah, yes, they will. Nick in the chat just traded Hurts and Andrews for Godwin and Laporta. Anthony Richardson is now his QB. Thoughts? Nice trade.
That's a good trade. That looks like it helps your team out. Yeah, that's a good trade.
Yep. Now, Nino Pena in the chat is asking, I'm a bit worried about the Giant situation getting even more ugly. So I just traded Neighbors for DJ Moore. Was it worth it? Yeah. I think so. I was hoping there was going to be something for Neighbors in New York with the Giants, but after seeing what Daniel Jones actually is this season, it's going to be a rough year for Neighbors owners.
So Neighbors did see the most targets, though, didn't he? It's just
he
that
did, but
bad. They're so bad that like
volume doesn't matter.
His draft capital was too high. That's where I was going.
Way too high.
100% of the snaps he played, he had the highest volume of targets, and I didn't even run the target share because it doesn't matter. The ball's all over the place, and it almost reminds me of like a Kyle Pitts situation. It doesn't matter how good you are if they can't put the ball in your hands ever. So it's
right. Yeah, I mean, he did 11.6 PPR points, but if you can move him for something valuable right now, you definitely want to do it.
That's I know Caleb Williams struggled, but I expect him to get better, and DJ Moore's a really good
wide receiver. Caleb Moore isn't going to struggle forever.
No.
Just plain and simple. All right, let's get on to tight ends here and get these wonderful people on their way to winning their leagues this week. My favorite position. We're starting with the guy, Mike. You called it last week, and damn it, you were right. Colby Parkinson, Los Angeles Rams. He was, I believe, tight end 7. Is that correct? I can pull it up here. He was a top tier tight end this week. And now
that's
not saying a ton.
Yeah, he didn't blow my doors off, but
4.7 PPR points got. I'm sorry, that's standard points here. 4.7 standard points got Colby Parkinson to be the tight end 4. Tight end 7, 8.7 PPR points. That's still a top 12 tight end. Is it ugly? Very much so. But it is what it is, right? You take the points where you can get them, and at tight end, Colby Parkinson's a guy who's probably going to get you points.
His target share is probably going to go up a little bit here with Puka out. He played 88% of the snaps. He's only rostered 6% on Yahoo and 1.5% on ESPN, so he's available. So if you made a mistake in the draft at tight end, I made many. Or if you feel like you need another tight end, right, that has at least a shot to produce, Parkinson's that guy. That's basically how we've talked about him as well, right? Like he has a shot to produce. That's more than you can say for a lot of other tight ends.
Well, okay, another one I'm going to throw out here, Chig Okonkwo. I didn't know how much he was going to be involved in the offense. I think he's going to be kind of like a high priority target guy, apparently.
He might be. I was so afraid of everyone in that offense until we see what we could get. And I think that's a good call. Chig is probably going to be more involved.
Yep.
Will's not
19%. No, he's Jay Cutler, but real bad, basically. And Chig, 19% rostered on Yahoo right now. And then the other obvious one, we shouldn't have to tell you guys this, but we're going to tell you anyway. Isaiah Likely. Now, he's not going to put up these kind of numbers every week. Just to be clear, Mark Andrews is going to feast. A big part of what happened on Thursday was that they needed Mark Andrews to block because they could not stop that Kansas City defensive line. However, how often is this going to happen against good fronts, Mike?
Well, it's funny because they also said they wanted to get him more involved in the passing game in the offseason. And as a fantasy community, we pretty much ignored that. We said, yeah, you said this last year too, and he didn't get any run until Andrews got hurt. Andrews is another year older, likely played 66% of the snaps, and Andrews played 74, which means they were on the field a lot together, right? So the coaching staff didn't lie to us there like we all like to say they did. He had 12 targets, 9 receptions, 111 yards. He led the team in targets and receiving yards.
Almost had one more touchdown.
Yes. If he had white cleats on, he would have had a second TD for sure. Yeah. That half an inch of shoe screwed him, or smaller feet. So either white cleats or smaller feet. He would have been better off. But I don't know if this is a trend yet, but we're going to see more of this is my feelings on this because they've talked about it. And it's not always just coach speak like we think. Everybody thinks they're lying all the time. No, many times they're telling us the truth. We just don't want to believe them. You have to get him. if J.K. Dobbins is available, he's like 50% of the leagues or something. He's probably somebody you should be picking up on the waiver wire if he's out there too. Those are probably the top two guys. You have to get him. I don't think you can expect 111 yards in a TD every week. That's a little outlandish, but he should be solid, and that's
50
all we
yards.
want. Yeah, every week.
Touchdown here and there. Every week.
Yeah. Every week.
6 to 8 targets, somewhere in that range. Yeah. Isaiah Likely's talented. You can't keep these guys down forever, right? Like eventually they're going to pop off one way or another.
My most hated fantasy saying: talent wins out. It does out when the coaching staff recognizes it's there and works plays for them.
Right.
But yeah, their wide receiver room is okay. I mean, I know everybody loves Zay Flowers and thinks I hate him. I don't hate him. I just know what the team does. They're going to pass more to those two tight ends, and Zay Flowers is probably the second or third option after that.
Yep. And Rashad Bateman needs a big play to be even remotely fantasy relevant.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, we've got a couple more in the chat here, Mike, and we're going to get everyone out of here. We've got Nick saying he has an offer sitting. He'd be getting Rashid Shaheed and giving away T. Higgins. Worried about the recurring hamstring injury in the Bengals overall. Those are both very fair concerns, though I don't know right now that I'd be giving T. Higgins away for Rashid Shaheed, Mike. A lot of his volume, a lot of his points were on a couple of plays this weekend.
He's a big play guy, like we talked about Alec Pierce, right? So if he doesn't get that big play, you're probably going to be hurt. I like him, but my rosters are typically built with all these steady guys and then a boom bust guy in my flex. That's what I like, so when he doesn't produce huge, it doesn't hurt me much. And when he does, it throws me way over the top. But I'm also a T. Higgins guy, and I get if this hammy is going to bother him during the season, I'll be very sad. He's one of my most rostered players because of where I could get him, and I thought he was coming into the season healthy. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase with Burrow together is not what you're going to see what they did against the Patriots, which was horrible. When both of those guys are on the field, that's just such an explosive offense. I can't make this deal either. I'm keeping T. Right now, right now, that's what I'm doing.
It could change. It could change down the road. But for now, I'm with you. I'm keeping T. I love Shaheed. But you also have to remember, he had a big week. Yeah, we talked him up all offseason. But again, he's a big play guy. And this was against the Carolina Panthers. It's not like this was against a good team. This was basically a college all-star team, I think is what you can best call it.
If you watched the DFS show on Friday, you would have known we were like, and the Panthers, well, they didn't really do anything to improve their defense from last year, which was horrible. And that's why we were picking some New Orleans players. And they all worked out, by the way, in some form of way or another. Yeah. So
even Jamal Williams scored some points.
They were up so big, they dusted him off and put him on the field. They were like, we know you haven't even read the playbook yet this year because you didn't expect this, but go out there, kid. Go get him.
Now we've got Southsco 650 in the chat asking, with CMC down, who should I pick up off waiver? Bucky, Tank, Hill, or Jamal Williams? I'm going to say I would probably go Tank because he's the one in the full-on split. He's going to see goal line work. Justice Hill's too much PPR reliance.
That's kind of question I have. If it's PPR, I bump Hill up. If not, it's Tank.
Fair point. Okay.
Tank, Bucky, Hill, and standard. And I would Jamal Williams. No, that was only because it was a blowout. You can't trust that they're going to do that with him ever again this season.
I think he's worth kind of like a back end roster ad if you've got the room.
If you're deep, then, yeah.
Great. I wrote him up in my waiver wire article today.
I didn't put him in mine, by the way. My article I write that'll be out over the weekend. He may end up in it as a weekend stash because he might be what's left. But right now, I don't have him as a guy I'm writing about.
The only reason I wrote him up is because I could see him maybe getting back to a little bit of that 2022 Detroit form. Like he's not going to score. I know he's not going to score 17 touchdowns, But could he get 8, 9, 10 touchdowns this year and just make it worth it some weeks to start him?
The strength is the running game on that team, by the way. That's the real strength. And everything revolves around that power game of running and tight ends. So if they want to go with a 3-headed running attack with Taysom Hill, Williams, and Kamara, I think that's an actual team that can support it, by the way. So it's
right. And that's so Nick also has one more question for us, Mike. DeMarcus Robinson or Wan'Dale Robinson off of waiver wire. I'm going to say because Wan'Dale Robinson plays for the New York Football Giants, I'm going DeMarcus Robinson.
Pick Robinson here.
Yeah, I'm taking Robinson, Nick.
DeMarcus. I'm going DeMarcus Robinson.
DeMarcus.
Well. No Wan'Dale.
Yeah, and here's the last one. I promise, Mike, and we will get out of here.
J-Money.
Would you drop a handcuff, Braylon Allen for Justin Hill, Bucky, or McLaughlin? Half PPR. He has Breece Hall. Half PPR. Yeah, I'd probably lean Bucky Irving here.
I'd go Bucky. Bucky, Hill, McLaughlin is the order I'd put those guys in myself. I like Hill in PPR, half PPR. I mean, Bucky's going to earn more playing time, more snaps than Hill, I think. I think Hill's going to stay consistent with that roughly 30-ish% snap count.
Yep. All right. 2 more, I promise, Mike. They just keep coming in. The people love our advice.
That's
here.
Good. I love this.
We love it. We love it. And guys, just a reminder, we do every Friday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern. Hoove and I will be here to answer your questions. So if you've got questions heading into the weekend, please tune in and catch us. We're also going to be dropping some of our favorite bets for the weekend. It's a good place to get ready for the weekend with Hoove and I. Again, that's at 6 p.m. Eastern on Fridays. So now he has Kyren Williams as his starter. He's got Corum on his bench in case Kyren gets hurt. Do you think doing this is a waste of bench space with Dobbins and Tanks Bigsby? He could also get Mason on waivers. I'm going to say right now, if you can get Mason on waivers, go get Mason on waivers. After that, I still don't necessarily trust that Dobbins is going to continue to see the kind of work he saw in week 1.
Running back I'd go
with Tank if you're going to do anything. But also, I'm kind of okay with Blake Corum being that handcuff. And then if he starts to see more volume, you can maybe start him in addition to Kyren as well.
If I can't get Mason, I'd probably just keep Corum out of this group is what I would do. Mason is the ad. If you can't get him, I think I'd just keep Corum for now. I've made a lot of jokes about Blake Corum not getting any snaps or touches, but eventually he's probably going to get some work in this offense. So I'd hold and be fine with that. He's a good running back. I make fun of him a lot on X, so I want you to know I'm only making fun of him. I don't believe it. I'm just making fun of him.
Look, part of what we do is entertainment value too, right, Mike? Like we have to make people laugh. Now, Christian Reyes wants to know, is Amon-Ra, Pitts, Javonte, Terry, or Kyren? Terry, okay, hold on. Let me start over here, Mike. Is Amon-Ra, Pitts, Javonte, and Terry for Kyren, Tay, Dulcich, and Deontay a good trade? If you're on the Amon-Ra, Pitts, Javonte side, then yes, that is a very good trade. If you're on the Kyren, Tay, Dulcich, Deontay side, you got fleeced, bro. Yeah, that's not good. But make sure you sub, and we'll help you out with this stuff. Christian, thank you for tuning in, guys. I want to say thank you to everybody who showed up, who asked questions, who said hello. We always appreciate it. I want to remind you all as well that tomorrow the Nathan Hearns show is going to be live on Optimus Fantasy, covering all things NFL. We're going to have a blast with it. Thursdays with Casey Kasem and myself, the Optimus Fantasy Football Show, live at 4 p.m. Eastern right here on this channel. And then Friday morning, Mike and I are going to be around with our DFS live picks for the main slate of the weekend. And as I was mentioning earlier, tune in, hang out with Hoove and I on Friday afternoon. We've got our mailbag and betting show. That is going to be going off at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Great way to start your weekend off. My face isn't too bad, right? Like, people don't mind looking at me right before the weekend, hopefully.
I hope not. You're on a lot, man.
Yep. All right, guys, if there are any questions in the chat we didn't get to, I am going to pop into our YouTube channel this afternoon. I will get those answered for you, so look out for that. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We will be back next week with our Week 3 waiver wire. Look for Mike and I on Friday for DFS, and I'll just look for you guys all week long in the chat. We look forward to hanging out with you.
Thanks.